Hi, we're back.
And we're back.
This is the #Wild podcast. Welcome. Thanks for coming back. It's been a minute. We apologize.
Yeah. I mean, minor setbacks.
My fault. But
it's okay.
Here we are. We're back. We are really excited for this episode. We hope you're excited for this episode. We're doing conspiracy theories.
Yes.
My name's Matt.
I'm Susanna.
This is #Wild. Thank you so much for joining us again. We do want to give a couple little updates before we jump into our main topics today. Do you want to do yours first or should I go?
You can go first.
Perfect. So mine is on the vape crisis, which we are still continuing to cover as it unfolds. It started in August. It is now the middle of November. It'll probably be the end of November by the time you see this. But the CDC finally confirmed the link to vitamin E acetate, the additive that we thought was being added into black market THC carts. They tested 29 samples across 10 states from lung samples from people who had it. And vitamin E acetate was found in all of their lungs. 100%. THC was found in about 80% and nicotine was found in about 60. So it is the vitamin E acetate. They're confirming that link. They're saying it does a lot of damage to the lungs once you inhale it like that. So again, vaping is never 100% safe, but you're so much safer if you just source your vapes legally. There are 47 deaths now and 2,000 total cases. So it is still growing, but it has slowed significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's still crazy. Over
Very
40
scary.
deaths. That's scary.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's across 49 states now. So Alaska is the only one that doesn't have any cases.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Wow.
So stay safe. Source from places that you trust. Make sure you can see all the testing on any products you're buying. You should be able to see THC, CBD, and a batch number, at least in California. And you can look up the batch number for further test results if you want. Talk to who you're buying stuff from. Talk to the people at the dispensaries. Just make sure you're keeping yourself and your friends and anyone else who you would be sourcing carts for safe. No dank vapes, Off-White, Moon Rocks, TKO. We've already covered all this, so we're not going to linger on it.
I feel like it was important to touch on it regardless.
Absolutely.
Though.
I'll keep bringing you updates as I feel they're important. I felt this one was important because the CDC did, like I said, actually confirm that link, and we were not sure about it before, and we're sure about it now.
Right.
So it's important.
Dope. Well, not dope, but you know what I mean.
Right.
Dope update.
Literally.
Oh. So my update is for our last episode was serial killers. And we talked about a lot of like the mental health aspect and like how someone is raised and how over time, even if someone has a predisposed, I guess, mental illness, sometimes it doesn't actually manifest until either social issues come into their lives or bad upbringings or any type of abuse, mental, physical, whatever happens. Everybody is different. All cases are different. But I felt like right after we did the serial killer one, I went and saw Joker, and it was exactly everything we were talking about. And that was the craziest part of it, is like I was watching the movie and I was like, this is literally why we covered serial killers. Like everyone was like probably thinking like, oh, we're covering serial killers because, we like the idea of it or whatever. And then people are like, oh, they made Joker so they could, give the villain more of like his own shine or like light or whatever. And it's like, no, it's actually for the mental health aspect.
Right. It's like a really poignant story about like his descent into madness, right?
Right. Like he was like, when you watch it, you literally feel like you feel everything he feels. Like at his breaking point, and I'm not going to give out specifics, but there is one breaking point because you live with him throughout the entire beginning of the movie when people are abusing him and society is so mean to him. And then when he finally snaps, you're like,
I get it.
thank God.
Right.
Like, you're almost like, yes, bitch. Like, them. But then you're sitting there like, whoa, like,
yeah.
I didn't think that I was going to feel that way about somebody getting killed in a movie, but it was like, you know, when you literally feel his anxiety, you feel his, like, the bullying and, like, the mental abuse and all that stuff. And then when he snaps, you're like, honestly, like, good for him. And it's not something that you think you would take away from a movie like that. But I think it literally, it's not a violent movie. I feel like it's more about, like, I feel like everyone needs to see it, because I'm trying to not give away a lot, but I feel like the whole moral of the movie is like, don't be an asshole. No. Don't be that person. Like, don't be the reason why someone snaps.
Right.
And that's why I feel like the movie was so important. And it's literally the same thing that we covered with mental health and serial killers. Right. And that was so mind-blowing to me when I saw it.
Yeah. We have a episode coming up that's dedicated completely to mental health, so we'll definitely dig in more there. But yeah, thanks for bringing that update. I'll definitely go see it.
Yeah. No, it's really dope.
Yeah. I always thought, I mean, I've always liked the character of Joker. There's like a deep analysis on the Dark Knight Joker about how he's the one who actually saves Gotham. It's really cool.
That's cool.
But we won't linger on that either. We're going to get to conspiracy theories, because a lot of you are excited about this one, and we are too.
So we got a couple of topics.
We do.
We tried to get into the ones that we did not see eye to eye on a lot.
That is true, except for this last one. But
true. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
God.
And we're also staying away from the ones that are
obvious,
really surface level, really not supported scientifically.
Being with a fucking everyone, it's overplayed, overdone.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you want to just us to touch on a few that we don't believe in.
Yeah, we could do that really quick.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, just how we don't care about Bigfoot.
Right.
We're doing this with conspiracy.
Same. Hollow Earth.
Oh yeah.
Stupid.
No, I'm sorry. If you believe that,
very bad. Very bad critical thinking.
We can't hang.
Have. Yeah, it's just like, without, if the Earth was hollow, we wouldn't have a magnetic field, for starters. We wouldn't have tectonic plates. We wouldn't have.
It just doesn't make any fucking sense.
It doesn't.
And you can't fall off the Earth. It doesn't work like
flat
that.
Earth, the same thing. The new flat Earth theory is like that Antarctica isn't like at the South Pole. It's like surrounding the entire whatever it is, disc or plane or whatever, and that's what keeps the water from spilling out into the. And then there's a separate part of flat Earth theory that the Earth is like an elevator. And that's what creates the gravity.
Wait, shut.
So the flat Earth proponents say that because of the upward motion of the Earth, that's what creates the feeling of gravity.
I feel like I don't know if this is completely true, but God, I don't know if I'm going to get slack for this, but I heard that a lot of people believe the Earth is flat because maps are flat.
Oh my Wow.
And I was like, yeah.
Wow.
Because what are you going to do? Sit there with a freaking balloon in the car? Please tell me where that logic came from.
I don't know.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts to think about. It really does.
I love these flat earthers who spend a lot of money trying to disprove flat Earth and then actually end up, or prove flat Earth and actually end up proving the Earth is round. There was this they did a study where they sent a boat out and being if it disappears off the horizon, then the Earth is curved, and they're like, it won't, and it obviously does. So,
also, I mean, even if the Earth was flat, distance, shit disappears.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it should it should go until it's a speck, and if you look at it through a telescope, it should still be there. It should still be there. And then the other part is, and they've been saying this since the Middle Ages, when people were trying to disprove flat Earth, or I guess since Galileo. Anyway, since post Galileo, they've been saying, why does the if you look out to sea with like a telescope and you're looking at a ship disappear, the body of the ship disappears before the mast because it's going below the horizon. Anyway, that's flat Earth. It's stupid.
Yeah, we're not
Flat Earth and Hollow Earth,
further.
they're both stupid.
Hollow Moon.
Hollow Moon is
Also stupid.
ridiculous.
Because that is our like magnetic pole as well.
It pulls it. Yeah, the gravity. If the moon was hollow, it wouldn't have enough gravity to exert the pull it does on the oceans.
Exactly.
For starters. And then, I guess there's a sub theory of
Those
that
two
the
go
aliens
together.
live inside the moon.
Shut the
Yeah, and that
it
the
hurts.
Apollo astronauts encountered these aliens on their trips, which we
I'm
can get into
sure.
that too. But chemtrails for me is another one that's just junk science.
Yeah, I
like,
don't really like.
the idea is that like the government, the Illuminati, whoever you want, is using like pretty much commercial airliners to just dump mind control chemicals onto us.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess it would be like a continuation of MK Ultra at that point, but like it's just you can't get airborne chemicals like that into like the majority of people's respiratory or nervous system by doing it the way they're suggesting. Like you would have to put it in the water, which is a much better conspiracy theory than chemtrails.
Yeah.
So chemtrails are stupid.
Yeah, that doesn't. I don't. Yeah.
Are there any other ones that are just like intellectually
Illuminati.
dishonest? Illuminati isn't that far-fetched. I think
it's not.
I think New World Order is much more far-fetched than Illuminati.
Yeah, I feel like Illuminati definitely huge possibility, but like at the same time, it's like
It's funny when they like
also
try to
like it
connect.
doesn't matter to us.
I know.
What are we gonna do about it?
Right?
At this point, it's like I don't care. It doesn't
if the
affect
shadowy
me.
cabal really does rule the world, it's far too late to stop them.
Exactly. And then that our phones are hearing us, that's already been proven.
That's just a fact.
That's
Sorry.
not even conspiracy anymore. It's real.
Yep.
It's out there. Facebook definitely admitted that a long time ago.
So did Amazon, and we know from Edward Snowden.
Alexa, we turned off our Alexa. We're like, you know what? At this point, I mean, I have nothing to hide. Like honestly, the most you're gonna see on my phone is like double chins and like me researching stuff about like cats.
And
like it's
conspiracy
really
theories.
yeah. I mean,
no,
you know,
right.
there's a privacy setting, but
no, I have Spotify. I pay for Spotify, and they offered all of their users like a free Google Home Mini or whatever, and they were like emailing me about it a bunch, and I was like, no, thank you, I don't want to put.
But
you already have my phone.
But you know what's
I don't
funny?
need, like another
like
device spying on me in my home.
Honestly, but you know what's funny? Sometimes is like I know for a fact my phone is listening, and I'll literally be like, "Damn, I wish I could find like this color shirt." Cause like maybe like the internet will just search it for me because I'm way too lazy.
Amazing.
And then sometimes it'll actually come up where I'm like, that's what I wanted. I use it to my advantage. It's great.
It's brilliant.
Honestly,
actually.
kind of a great move. Because I'm just like, what's that thing that looks like this, shaped like that? And you can like sit on it. Like some weird like oval ass chair. And then Amazon will be like, were you looking for this? And I'm like, I was. Thank you.
Amazing.
Just made me more lazy, honestly.
Yeah, that's really funny. But yeah, on that note, I've heard, I think Edward Snowden said this actually, that even if you turn off the phone, like they can still hack into it and turn on the mic, even if if you power down the handset. And like the old, like when you could remove battery from phone, like in the old type of cell phones, that was the only way to know. And now that you can't do it, they can just like, your phone's not ever like off.
I mean, that's kind of creepy, but at the same time, like,
Not
come at me, bro.
Like,
there's nothing
No,
like, even, I don't know. Like, there's nothing. I'm such a boring person that they would literally be like listening for no reason.
right?
Like, find me that shirt I wanted 2 weeks ago.
Amazing.
That's your job.
Okay, we're gonna actually get
Okay,
into some conspiracy theories that at least one or the other of us believes in here in just a second. We'll be right back. Okay, and we're back.
From our non-existent sponsors.
Love them. They're so good.
I really want to get shirts that say sponsor us.
Wow.
Or not
Brilliant.
sponsored.
Not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored is on point. I think I turned myself up. Hold on.
It doesn't sound bad though.
It kind of does.
Oh, I mean, probably to you.
I didn't like it. Okay, that's better.
That's way better.
Okay, cool. All right. So we are going to jump into our first conspiracy theory here. We're going to touch on, we're not going to do the granddaddy. We're not going to go into JFK. But we will state for the record that we don't believe the official story. Neither of us do.
Yeah.
Okay. The first conspiracy theory we're going to touch on is the moon landing. It allegedly happened in 1969.
Wait, allegedly? You don't believe it either?
I'm going to say allegedly for
okay,
now.
Fine. Okay, fine.
In 1969, in the summer of 1969, there were a lot of missions that led up to it and several that followed it. There's a lot of evidence for the moon landing. Most of the conspiracy theorists conjecture that all the videos are faked in a soundstage, that we never went to the moon, that we never even sent astronauts out of Earth's orbit. What do you have to say about that?
Everything you just touched upon.
Cool.
I don't think we ever went. I feel like it was just a scheme because listen, America got mad FOMO. So when they heard that a different country was going to do something cooler than them, they were like, "Nah, bitch. We got cameras. We got sound stages." And also like if you actually I'm not like some rocket scientist or anything, but like those shadows are way off. And also, where are those shadows from? And don't say the lighting on the ship.
Why not the lighting on the ship?
Because.
Wait, what? Why not?
Because.
There would be one large light source, which would be the sun, obviously. But then there would be other light sources if they set them up.
Because it was way too bright. Just from a ship, you're in pitch black. And the sun is nowhere to be found.
What do you mean? No, they were on the light side of the moon. They were on the sun, like on the sunlit side of the moon.
So wouldn't the shadow be in the opposite direction?
There would be multiple shadows if there was the sun.
But there was only one.
What do you mean?
There was only one shadow.
What?
And it was not in the right direction. It was the direction of the...
Oh, I remember this one. NASA explained this by saying that the camera they shot on was a wide-angle lens, so it distorted the shadows. That's NASA's official story. It's plausible.
I'm glaring if no one can see me.
And and the flag waving in the wind was compelling for me until I found out they had a flag with an extra arm behind it. So it was like the flagpole, and it was like an L-shaped flagpole. So the flagpole here, and then boom. So and they designed it on Earth because they knew there was going to be no wind.
I was gonna say, where the fuck's the wind from?
Yeah, well, if there's no wind,
where's the wind?
It's from the continuation because they're in a vacuum. When they like shook out the flag, it just continued waving because they're in a vacuum. There's no resistance for it to stop waving. It would just keep waving forever. So presumably, it's still waving.
Okay.
They left it up there.
The flag?
Yeah.
Did they probably do it like a different time?
Wait, so
do we have proof?
Time out. You do believe we went to the moon, but not on Apollo 11?
Yeah.
Oh.
I believe we've gone to the moon, just not the first time.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just feel like the first time, like, because they had tried and failed multiple times, and then when other countries were like, we're going to the moon. It was Russia, right?
It was Russia.
And they were like, oh, fuck that. We're going to the moon. And then they tried. Guarantee they failed. And they were like,
they did fail.
We got
Apollo 1 literally exploded.
No, I know. So I'm saying, like, they didn't make it, quote unquote, to the moon until Russia was like, oh, we're going to go to the moon first. And then America was like, over my dead body.
It still took them 6 years.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, I don't feel like the first time was in 1969. I don't feel like it was Apollo 11. I feel like it was after.
Apollo 12?
Oh.
Because Apollo 12 went to the moon.
Like
Apollo 14,
I don't know, the
15,
first
16, and 17 all landed on the moon.
I just feel like, well, yeah, but like I feel like the first, when it was not video, but like recorded,
yeah,
it just seemed like super staged, and the shadows were off. I feel like everything was just not, I don't know.
Well, like the hardcore conspiracy theorists on this one go all the way, go as far to say that like the International Space Station doesn't exist, and they filmed like every astronaut ever in a soundstage.
I believe the first one was at a soundstage.
See, like for me, it's still like you would have to fool not only the entire American public, which like fine, but you would also have to fool all of the scientists and like mathematicians and everyone who worked on the project, because they were in the Houston Situation Room, like sitting there for the entirety of like the 3 days that the astronauts were like up there or not, right? And so you would literally like, they would literally have to like patch a live feed to the astronauts like sitting in a room somewhere, and then the astronauts would have to pretend that they were on the mission. The whole like
wait, but you don't think everybody who worked there knew it and was in on it and
no,
was like, hey,
I don't.
I feel like they were.
The more people who are in on a conspiracy, the more likely it is to come out.
Yeah, but it's something like that where it's like that huge. I feel like a lot of people will keep it under like the covers because they're like, well, or they were threatened or God knows what. But there's a lot of things that are under wraps that many people know about.
And there's like a pretty logical progression to the way it happened. Like they didn't just like suddenly go to the moon. It wasn't just like suddenly Apollo 11. Apollo 8 went and established like an orbit around the moon and came back. Apollo 10 did the same thing, but then they tested out the lunar lander, didn't land, and came back. And then Apollo 12 is pretty much the same mission as Apollo 11, so it doesn't really stand to reason that they like couldn't pull it off in 1969 in the summer, and then suddenly they could pull it off like 3 months later.
Well, I just feel like the first time just seemed way too convenient.
It's very convenient, but I think to dismiss it on the grounds of that is to dismiss all of the human ingenuity that went into that project.
I'm not saying that here like the thing is like I'm not saying that everything that they were working towards like wasn't going to work. I'm just saying like the timing, the footage, everything about it just seems so sketchy to me that I'm like, okay, we went to the moon for sure, but not that time.
It did work out really well, and some proponents of my side claim that they could have lost some footage from the moon and done some soundstage creation of footage, still have gone to the moon, but lost some of the footage and been like, hey, let's supplement what we do have by creating some in a studio. I think the most compelling piece of evidence, and I don't know if you've ever watched this, but for your side, for that we didn't go to the moon, if you've ever watched the Apollo 11 press conference after they got back.
Weren't they like super unenthused?
Yeah,
that was a huge part of it. It's like they didn't really, and they even said that, like I watched a whole thing about how we didn't go to the moon.
Yeah, there's a few.
and they were saying how like when he actually like stepped on the moon, he was like so monotone, didn't fucking care. It was just very like, whatever. Like I get it, you're probably tired and all that shit like that. I get that, but then when he came back, he was just like, they just acted like they didn't go.
There's an argument to be made that these three men are just boring individuals.
I mean, facts, but I mean, you're on the moon. You made it to the, you know what I mean? Like you're not in your planet.
Also, the other thing is like, this isn't like some like joyride while they're up there. They literally might never come home.
I mean, true, but it's like when you get back, wouldn't you like, why did you sign up for it in the first place?
No, for sure.
And then like when you got back and you made it and like you're the first person to step on the moon, wouldn't you be like over the moon?
Fair.
You know,
there's the press conference didn't happen right away. It happened like 3 months later,
right?
For starters. And so there's enough time for them to have like died, the excitement to have died down, them being like national heroes, to have like them gotten used to it.
I just feel like
not
that's
even
something,
just national heroes, but like humanity's heroes. But
also,
yes,
one more thing. Have you seen? Oh my God, what is it? It's on Netflix. It's about the planet. But it's about like 8 different astronauts that have actually, like, it's hosted by Will Smith.
Okay.
And it's about 8 different astronauts that have been obviously to outer space, and they have looked at the Earth from space, and they talk about how like magical it is and how it's so freaking cool and how amazing our Earth actually is. And all of them literally sound like it was the best experience of their life, and they are living for it. And they explain it in a way where it's like, if you ever like, they basically were just saying like they were so grateful to even get that chance. You know what I mean? So that's why I was like,
the press conference is really even sketchier.
Yeah.
Because I watched the Apollo 12 press conference, and they're just as awkward. It's not till like 14 and 15 that they have like, that the astronauts have any fucking charisma at all. And I just like, I think maybe Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins specifically, because it's especially Neil Armstrong is just like so weird in that press conference. Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins seem like, if you took Neil Armstrong out of that press conference, I think it would be believable.
Okay, fair.
I'm not saying like I think it's more likely that they were like told to hide something, or that something happened up there that NASA doesn't want getting out.
Right.
And they did record over like the tapes, like the original broadcast tapes.
Wait,
they don't have them anymore. They don't exist. Like the original broadcast.
So what are we
the tapes
watching?
Of the original broadcast. It's just clips. It's just clips from literally what was broadcast on TV. But like the actual tapes. Okay, this is the other thing that's like that helps your side is when they broadcasted on TV. They were broadcasting from the moon to like to a TV set that was like really low bandwidth, and so then in order to broadcast that signal on like a large bandwidth to the nation, they put it's an image of an image effectively. So they had the monitor that was showing the live broadcast, which could have been a recording. And then they filmed that monitor with a camera to do the live broadcast.
Got it.
And so, but like, there's also like the official story that the bandwidth was just too low to send that signal nationally. So they just sent it to one receiver and then filmed that receiver and sent that broadcast nationally. Which makes sense. Like sending a live feed from the moon in the 1960s isn't exactly like easy thing to do. And
Wi-Fi doesn't even work sometimes.
Yeah, and plus it would divert power from the actual like critical systems that they needed for the mission.
Yeah.
The other thing is like if you look at like all of the planning and thought and everything that went into it, it just seems like if I were doing a fake moon landing, I wouldn't have the astronauts wait 7 hours from touching down on the surface to the time they got onto the surface of the moon.
Right.
Like it's a 7-hour window where they're doing like a lot of like tech and prep and like and stuff that they just like, if I were like televising a live moon landing broadcast, I'd be like, okay, we're on the surface of the moon. We landed. We're going to be out there in like 30 minutes. Let's get it.
Right.
But it took them like 7 hours, which like is very realistic to me. I don't know. I've gone back and forth on this a lot, but I just, all of the brilliant people who like worked for NASA, the gigantic NASA budget, like where did all that money go if it didn't go into rockets and like sending people to the moon?
Where does most of our money go?
All right, fair. But
taxes.
I'm not ready to dismiss humanity's greatest achievement based on some shadows.
I mean, like, yeah, I get it. I just also believe that America's mad petty, and I stick with that argument.
Totally. I think America's mad petty, and so they figured out a way to get to the moon because they're that petty.
They're that petty.
They're so petty that they actually went to the moon just to spite Russia.
But they could also just be like, okay, if we can't make it, we're gonna make it look like we made it. Because also, listen, America's very sketchy.
I agree.
So
especially in the 60s, are you kidding me? That's when
know.
the CIA was just freely assassinating people, like whoever they wanted.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's my side is I don't think that Apollo 11 actually was.
Got it. I believe in all the Apollo missions. So I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to completely discredit this theory because I think it's viable that we didn't go, especially like the one, if you're just going to be like the one.
No,
Apollo
yeah,
11
I
is
believe
fake.
we've gone to the moon. Yeah, plenty of times. Like,
Yeah.
people want to, like, build freaking McDonald's on the moon, which is gross. Like, don't ever do that.
I can't
Don't
see why you
not
would do
shout
that.
out
That's
McDonald's.
ridiculous.
But
We'll
like,
bleep them out.
yeah, good idea. You start sending us food. We're
right?
like,
No.
we're so sorry.
No thanks. Anyone but you.
Yeah, honestly. But
there's
yeah, I believe that we've been to the moon, just not that one, not that
I've
first
been
time.
on the side of we didn't go to the moon, and when I was on that side, I don't want to skate over this because I think it's valid. I was like, it'd be really dangerous, and NASA would know the danger of sending astronauts through the radiation once you get past like Earth's magnetic field. And I thought about it, and I was like, they wouldn't give a they'd do it anyway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our moon landing debate for you.
First debate.
Let us know in the comments if you agree with me or her.
I feel like I'm gonna win.
Maybe. Cool.
We'll take shots.
No, yeah. Oh my God, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys want to see us wasted, just like comment down below, and then whoever agrees with me, I'll take a shot. Whoever agrees with him, he'll take a shot. I'm gonna die.
Wow. Maybe we should just do whoever loses. Whoever has the least votes.
Okay.
One shot next episode.
We get no comments.
We have 2 more. I know, right?
You keep us sober.
Please.
Oh, you're so kind.
Okay, cool.
Next.
Let's jump to our next one.
Ancient aliens.
Ancient aliens.
You almost
That's
forgot.
Right. I did. I deadass did. Okay.
The pyramids.
Yeah, I guess it goes back further. The largest or the oldest megalithic site is Göbekli Tepe, dating back to 12,000 years ago, 11,500. But
just round it off. It's fine.
I know. And that dates to the last sort of like great extinction event about 12,000 years ago, which is sort of when the history of humanity begins. But it doesn't. Those early people. I've heard archaeologists speak of Göbekli Tepe and say it's like finding out a 3-year-old built the Empire State Building. It's just like they didn't have the technology. They didn't have the societies necessary. Like they didn't have agriculture back then.
I mean, that was such a long ass time ago.
Yeah, like they literally didn't. They were coming out of an ice age, so they hadn't even developed agriculture. They couldn't create food surpluses, and therefore they couldn't create like a workforce to sort of like send off to create these megaliths, which you would need. And then beyond that, they're like these 5-meter tall stone tablets that are carved beautifully, and they just wouldn't have had that kind of technology then. And then it does jump to the pyramids, specifically the Great Pyramid. There's no way the Egyptians could have built the Great Pyramid.
No.
The Great Pyramid is so architecturally perfect. To the exclusion of all the other pyramids, right? Like the other pyramids are credibly built by the Egyptians, or the Aztecs, or wherever they show up. But the Great Pyramid is basically impossible for them to have done.
Yeah, I feel like didn't they even say like if they even tried to replicate it today, it would take like forever. But also the amount of men and equipment would be like unreal. Yeah,
and supposedly Pharaoh Khufu commissioned this in like the 30 to 50 years of his rule, and did it all in that time frame.
That just seems
too much.
It
seems way more likely that.
Wait, so do you believe that we did get help or we didn't get help?
I believe that we did not.
Wait, what? So elaborate. Because I'm over here thinking that you're agreeing with me.
I do think that it would be a lot easier for Pharaoh Khufu to just rewrite history, right? He has control over the entirety of Egypt and whatever, so he could just be like, hey, the big one, the one we're trying to replicate, I built that.
Wait, so you think...
I think the Great Pyramid existed before Egypt. I think they found it and built around it. Oh. I don't think they built it at all.
Then who built it? Even before them?
I think, and
Oh boy.
I
We're
think
gonna disagree so hard.
I think there's an lost ancient civilization that had technology to create megaliths, and that civilization was wiped out, and there were survivors, and they ended up in Turkey, modern day Turkey, which is where Göbekli Tepe is. They ended up in Egypt. They ended up scattered across the world, and those early humans passed on the knowledge to be able to build the pyramids, to build Göbekli Tepe, to build Petra.
So you think there were people before the Egyptians that like had better technology than the Egyptians?
I think yes. I think
that's
I think they're
okay.
I think they're
Okay.
And you think aliens?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Listen, my theories are legit.
I hate to go philosophy on you, but when Nietzsche wrote God is Dead, he was speaking about the way that the age of scientific thought has killed the possibility of like an all-powerful deity who created the universe and created us and blah, blah, blah. And now we have all these scientific theories like evolution and the Big Bang to explain like our beginnings and the beginnings of the cosmos. And so what Nietzsche was saying was that now we've created the ability to reason. We no longer have need for deities to explain the things we can't explain. And so in the same sense that God was like the answer and the explanation for everything back before we had the scientific revolution, I feel as though aliens have become that now.
In the sense of like they are now the god?
Yeah, in the sense of everything we can't explain now, everyone just immediately says aliens.
I don't feel like that's totally true. I mean, like, I would love to think that everything was aliens. But just because I really want to meet one. But I just feel like back in the day, like, we are still learning so much technology, to this day. And so for the Egyptians alone to have that technology to build those pyramids, and now you're saying that it was people even before them
to
have that technology, which is like what did they use? Like, what tools? Like, what they needed? Like, cranes.
It's lost to history, but I like, for
Who's
example,
building cranes?
Atlantis.
Wait, like the underwater world?
Yeah, like the lost city of Atlantis it wasn't always underwater.
Is Atlantis real?
I think so.
Conspiracy? Is this another one? Are we doing 2 in 1? You think Atlantis is real?
I think Atlantis is real.
Wait, like where like Poseidon and stuff like rules the world and like Little Mermaid is chilling?
I mean, there's no Poseidon. He was a god.
Oh.
But there was a historical King Atlas who's supposed to be the ruler of Atlantis.
Okay.
Plato wrote about Atlantis. I always get this guy's name wrong. It's Herodotus. He's considered the father of history. Like, he's the first one who started writing shit down in ancient Egypt.
Okay.
And he mentions Atlantis.
Okay.
There's a great YouTube channel called Bright Insight. He did a 3-part feature last year on where he thinks the city of Atlantis is located, and he thinks it's in Western Africa. It's very compelling.
How have we not found it, though? We found so many. We can find fish underwater with those little dangly light bulb things, but we can't find Atlantis?
Well,
like, please tell me
because it
how.
got literally buried, like not buried, but submerged under the ocean, and then came back up. It's been thousands of years. Like, if Atlantis existed, it existed before,
like dissolved.
Pre-modern humans, basically, like before 12,000 years ago, before that extinction event, or maybe they got wiped out in that extinction event 12,000 years ago.
Wait, so if Atlantis sank, why didn't the pyramids?
That's really interesting, actually, because of where the Giza Plateau is located. It's the perfect, like, this is another reason why the Egyptians couldn't have done it. It's like the perfect center to like all of Earth's land masses. So if the oceans were to rise around it and submerge it for a time, which is possible. Hey, Millie.
What the? No.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Millie!
Okay.
And we're back.
Sorry about that, guys. That was Millie.
She makes an appearance every now and then.
She does. You've probably heard her on here before. Okay, so the pyramid, specifically the Great Pyramid, it's built in like the perfect geographic center of all landmass on Earth, which is impossible for the Egyptians to have known. But basically, the reason why the Giza pyramid would stand forever is because of its perfect alignment with the poles. And so even when the poles flip and the oceans supposedly come out of their beds and submerge, like this is the whole theory behind like all the great floods, like the biblical flood, all the great floods, right? Eventually all the waters would settle back into not necessarily the same beds they were in, but the pyramid will always rise up and be on land and dry because of where it is.
So wouldn't you think that the people of Atlantis would have built their city in an area where they knew it wasn't going to sink?
I don't think they knew it was. I don't think they knew about the Earth's catastrophe cycle.
But they knew that was the highest point. It was a good place to build the pyramids.
Yeah. Because they figured out like the precession of the Earth's axis and then built it. And then they went to the spot where it would be like the landmass center. Like,
isn't the main pyramid are the pyramids supposed to align to Orion's belt? Isn't it supposed to be the North Star as well? Like,
yeah, it points directly to the North Star.
Yeah.
It actually the 8 sides of the pyramid or whatever, because it's 8-sided. Not a lot of people know that. Some people think it's 4-sided, but each one little corners. They like go in and then come back out. But each, like if you take, God, I wish I had looked this up before. But if you take, I think it's the
circumference.
I don't think it is the circumference.
The roundabout?
Yeah. Basically, if you do the math right, you get the exact like precession of the poles.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. And that was also impossible for them to know. I don't know. Weird stuff like that pops out throughout history that was just impossible for the time period. And
wait, for the time period of Egyptians?
Yeah, or like the Sumerians or Göbekli Tepe or others.
So how did the people before the Egyptians know that, if it was even before the Egyptian time?
Well, I mean, it was before modern human history, so they would have just... Like, the idea is they became sufficiently advanced to be able to do and to know all these things, but then they were wiped out by Earth's catastrophe cycle.
So how do you think the pyramids were actually built?
I don't know.
I have a theory.
Go.
Okay, so I watch a lot of Ancient Aliens. I'm about to go off. I love Egypt.
Me too.
I feel like I'm like in like a meeting. Hi, I love Egypt. Just kidding. That was insensitive. But stop laughing. It makes it worse. But wait, that was amazing. Millie just got escorted up the stairs. Anyways, so I watch a lot of Ancient Aliens, and it's perfect for me because aliens and Egypt, my 2 favorite things all together. But I feel like a lot of the reasons why I think that the Egyptians had help from outer worldly things is because in one of the episodes they actually went over how, and this could be updated, I don't know, I didn't research this any further, this is just what I saw on Ancient Aliens, maybe they upgraded it, but apparently you can't build the pyramids from the ground up. It needs to be built from the point
I've heard this.
down. What are you about to say?
No, there's just that meme that goes around on I guess on social media, but it's like
It's a meme?
No, the meme is
It's
like,
is it really a meme?
yeah, it's like, how are the pyramids built? And then the caption is like, I reckon they started from the bottom and built up. And then there's like a picture of like them starting from the top and building down and being like, let's face it, this looks a lot harder. Because it's just like rocks suspended in midair.
Yes.
And then, yeah, it's funny. But no, is there like a... I don't get how that would work.
Allegedly,
Yeah.
there is something with a ship of some sort that is propping up the top part. Okay. So it is precisely aligned with the Orion's belt. So that way it's almost like a beam type thing. So they can build from the top down to make sure it is perfectly symmetrical.
You could just do that with math.
Right. But like back in the day, they were saying like, okay, so they were also saying the evolution of people's brains back in the day during Egypt time was so much more advanced out of nowhere. Like out of nowhere. Everywhere else, there was like the scriptures and stuff were just not very detailed and not very intricate. Mm-hmm. And for some reason with Egypt, it was like the brain grew 30% more. Okay. Like in that time frame. And then on top of that, in a bunch of the, what are the things called? The things in the pyramids, the little like drawings on the walls. What hieroglyphics?
So there are no hieroglyphs in the Great Pyramid.
Okay, but the hieroglyphs that do exist.
Yeah, sure.
Outside the pyramid. Okay. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
I was like on the walls, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of little drawings of the gods, quote unquote, yes, from outer space in stuff that looks like little ships, mm-hmm, helping them. It's like all these people dressed with like, you know, the animal heads and all these like, you know, mythical looking people and the pharaohs and all that. And then there's like these beings that no one can explain what they're looking at. And that was another part where they were like, why are these even scriptures? Why are these even like, not scriptures, but why are they even like a thing? Why are these, why are they, what did they see that it was so like, I guess, important for them to write down in their history? Yeah. That they're looking up at the stars and seeing these things. And they're like, we need to put this down. Like, well, so
those actually like glyphs showing beings, humanoidish beings in like a flying craft descending date back further than Egypt to
right
the Mesopotamians, the Sumerians, and the Sumerians also have images of the solar system, like the sun at the center of each of the planets, which is like eight-ish thousand BC, 7 or 8. And the Egypt history starts around 6,000 BC. So even further back than that, there were drawings of aliens, or I guess what are perceived now to be aliens. They could have been gods. They could have been fictional gods.
Right. Yeah. Like I mean, like a lot of people, when they first saw them, they were like, oh, they're praying to their gods or they're looking up at the gods. And they looked closer and they're like, but they look like little spaceships.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't just like these beings. It was just like, it just looked more alien-esque, less godlike.
There's also, have you seen those coins?
Which ones?
They're, I think, they might not even be Egyptian coins, to be fair, but they're really, really old, ancient coins, and they have like alien heads on them.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that another thing that like allegedly a lot of, not a lot, but like the pharaohs and the people that wore like the big headgear, they were actually hiding like a enlarged skull because they were hybrid.
Yeah, and then there's the theory that if you have Like, you know how like if you know your blood type, you'll be like O positive or O negative, or like if you are positive, you have DNA that's descended from the Rhesus monkey, which is like one of our like common ancestors. Like, and then if you have negative blood, you're apparently supposed to be descended from aliens.
I have to figure out my blood type.
Yeah.
Now I'm intrigued.
Yeah. But no, I'm much more inclined to believe in human ingenuity over alien intervention. So that's why I don't believe in ancient aliens.
I mean, I don't believe that like these little, like when I say aliens, I don't mean like, oh, these little like gray aliens came down and they were like beep beep boop boop boop, and then they were just like building shit.
Yeah.
I mean, like I feel like, especially in Egypt, with how much was developed in just that amount of time for the, you know, time frame that, like, not time frame, but like the era that they were in, they were so advanced.
Well,
versus so many, like, I don't know. I just feel like the pyramids are insane.
They were just the ones who like who did agriculture the best. Like, that's explainable because they were able to create food surpluses. And when you create a food surplus, it frees up labor to do other things: philosophy, history, writing, building pyramids, carving,
I mean,
hieroglyphs
totally,
and petroglyphs.
But it's just like I don't know, the advancement was just so insane for their time. And that's like what a lot of Ancient Aliens like covers about Egypt, is because of that. It's like, out of all of the civilizations that came before them, they advanced like 10 times faster.
Well, they were
out of nowhere.
They were in a very, like, back then, I know it's like the desert now, but back then Egypt was fertile. There was lots of like vegetation. It was like it was considered part of the Fertile Crescent back then, what was called the Fertile Crescent. And so they were just like geographically just in a more advantageous place to be building a society, and that contributed to it. I'm not saying they didn't have like great thinkers or didn't make great advances, but like also they could have had ancient knowledge that descended from the Atlanteans. Or, I mean, it doesn't necessarily even have to be the Atlanteans. It's just the ones that's easiest to like be like, Atlantis, everyone knows, right? But it could have been any advanced civilization that existed and died out before them, and then the survivors of it know enough to be able to pass on the knowledge and the technology. And then there's also, right, like we could have lost the record of how the pyramids were built in the burning of the Library of Alexandria. Like, I mean,
yeah, there's so many things that could lead back to the Egyptians not having it, like having built them. I just feel like Egyptians or not, just whatever built those, they're like perfect.
Well, the one, just the Great Pyramid. The rest are smaller, flawed step pyramids. Like, you can see, that's the other like problem with the Great Pyramid, right? It was supposedly built like in the middle of them building all the pyramids. I could see if it was like the last one, but it wasn't. Like, they were building other pyramids that are like not as good.
Right.
And you can see the technology and like their ability to build pyramids getting better. Like, each one gets better. And then suddenly they're able to build the Great Pyramid. And then right after that, they can't do it anymore. All their pyramids start going back to like step pyramids, and like the technology regresses immediately after the Great Pyramid. Like, they can't have done it.
I mean, do you think that there's something at the top of the Great Pyramid?
I think there's something in the Great Pyramid.
So you, like, apparently people say that they're like the top of the pyramid is like some sort of like, not portal, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like there's something that connects outer space to the very tip of it. It's almost like the eye or whatever.
So yeah, Tesla had this idea that if you built a pyramid-like structure, you could create like a perpetual energy source. And he never got it to work, mind you, but a lot of people think that he was stopped by Edison. And anyway,
another thing, they had light bulbs back then,
supposedly. They have hieroglyphs of a light bulb.
But how would they have seen inside the pyramids if they didn't have light bulbs?
Fire?
No, that's the thing. Fire Another thing I learned, you can't have fire in the pyramids because it will instantly go out because there's not enough oxygen for the fire.
But they hadn't finished building it yet.
No, I'm saying like if you just go in there in general afterwards. How'd they go in there afterwards? What was the point? If they couldn't go in there afterwards.
But
fire would go out.
They weren't like the other thing is the pyramids aren't tombs. Like everyone thinks that the pyramids are like.
Oh no,
the
I don't think
tombs.
they're tombs.
They're not. Like there's a coffin in one of them, but it was empty when the pyramid was.
Oh yeah, no. I don't think they're for tombs.
Yeah, and all the pharaohs are in the Valley of the Kings anyway, not any of the pyramids. There's never been a pharaoh found in a pyramid. But,
I'm just saying in general, it's like if you're going to build this crazy structure and if you can't go in it, what is the point?
Yeah, I don't think they built it.
No, I'm saying like in general, like anybody. Because they tried to go in there. That was like one of the huge debunking of the pyramids is like when you bring fire, like torches into the pyramid, it instantly goes out because the oxygen is not enough for it.
The other thing is the Egyptologists won't let anyone go in there anyway. It's like they're hiding something on purpose.
Right.
It's crazy because they won't let anyone. They did ground penetrating radar of the Sphinx, and there's like a chamber underneath the Sphinx, and they won't let anyone look in it.
Wait,
and
what?
And there's another.
Oh, the Sphinx is fucking scary looking.
Dude, the Sphinx is also part of this too, but people think the Sphinx dates back a lot further than it does because of the rainwater erosion, and this is like straight science. The rainwater erosion of the basin is too much for it to have been built in when they claim it was built because there wasn't rain on the Giza Plateau. There wasn't a significant amount of rainfall on the Giza Plateau, or there hasn't been in 7,000 years or something. And the Sphinx supposedly dates back to 4,000 years ago.
Okay.
So straight up the water erosion says it has to be at least 7,000 years old. But the history, Egypt history says it was built 4,000. I'm probably getting these wrong, these dates wrong, but
so
you get the idea.
Was there any erosion
theorized.
On the pyramids? No.
Well, not on the Great Pyramid. There's erosion, but it's not the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx aren't made out of the same thing either.
They're not?
The Sphinx is made out of limestone, and the Great Pyramid is made out of.
Oh, that makes sense.
These rocks they had to haul from way far away, actually. There's obviously erosion on the Great Pyramid, but it's not the same as.
I really want to know what's underneath the Sphinx now.
And then the other thing is that the Sphinx, the face has been fixed on the Sphinx multiple times.
Oh yeah.
So you can't really date it from the face or anything. I know they did ground penetrating radar of the Sphinx, and there's a chamber under there that no one ever knew about, but no one will let anyone go down there either.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, well, I'm gonna research that.
Okay.
Okay,
so again, let us know who you agree with on this one, because
they're very too. Even though I get it, aliens is far fetched, but I feel like we're both pretty far fetched with this one. Either side is very.
The Atlanteans or the aliens. Yeah. Did it. That's fair. I
was not expecting you to say that you believe in Atlantis. That threw me. I was like, okay, all right, it's that type of party. We're just gonna roll with it.
And to be clear, I don't think it had to have been Atlantis. It could have been any sufficiently advanced civilization that got wiped out but had survivors.
It's too late. You can't save your ass now.
Atlantis is just the recognizable one. It could have been Mu. It could have been there's others. There's a couple others. Lemuria. Anyway, we're going to move on.
Next topic. Oh, wait. This is the long ass one. Is there anything else we need to cover before this?
Oh, my God.
I'm not ready.
You're not ready.
I'm not. Oh, it's just... I'm going to be so... not only disturbed, but annoyed
I'll try to keep it as Cliff's Notes as possible, but there are a few people who I want to call out.
Oh, good.
We were going to do 9/11, by the way, but it's been so thoroughly done, and we both believe there's fishy aspects to it, especially the collapse of Building 7.
And the way the explosions.
It just makes no sense. I mean, if it were just the two towers by itself, we've never really seen planes hit towers. It's hard to like be like, oh, well, like a plane couldn't take down a tower because like the only two planes that have ever hit towers took them down. So but Building 7, a 47-story skyscraper collapsing because of fires, okay. And the way it collapses, okay.
All right. Yeah, so we're just not going to get into that topic because that's a whole other mess that we don't want to get into.
It's been done to death.
It has. It's like it's beating a dead horse at this point. But
go look up Richard. I think his name is Richard Gage. He has a really good.
I also just like, I don't know. I remember seeing it. Did you actually watch the planes hit? Did you watch the planes hit like on TV?
I watched the second one. Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah.
I got home and then instantly the second one hit.
Yeah, I've dug into that conspiracy significantly.
Yeah.
Pretty significantly. It's pretty crazy.
You guys can't see this, but there's like literally a smorgasbord on our table.
That we haven't touched at all.
So much food.
All right. We're doing Jeffrey Epstein.
I'm stressed.
I know most of you are aware of the broad strokes of this. But Jeffrey Epstein allegedly committed suicide.
Allegedly. And we agree on this one.
In his prison cell in August. And the conditions surrounding it are very, very suspicious. But I just want to give you real quick a blow-by-blow on who Epstein is and how we got this far, because it's not being told in as many circles as it's being joked about in terms of Epstein not killing himself, because we all know he didn't kill himself. Okay, so Epstein was a serial sex offender, sex trafficker, pedophile,
all those good things,
all throughout the 2000s, but a lot of people think it dates back further than that. He has a lot of very high profile connections, including the current president of the United States, Donald Trump. They had a friendship dating back all the way to the 1980s.
Is anybody shocked?
No. Is anybody shocked that he's also linked to Bill Clinton, dating back to the end of Bill Clinton's presidency? He's also linked to Prince Andrew very significantly, dating back all the way to the 1990s as well. And so with these three fine friends in his corner, and a lot of other powerful people, he evaded capture for quite a long time because people were willing to just turn a blind eye. But we know for sure, from 2001 to 2005, he created one of the largest sex trafficking rings in U.S. history. He was running it basically like a pyramid scheme where he would use victims to recruit other victims. And he would,
scary.
Yeah. And he would just have them come to his Palm Beach mansion. He would offer them $200 to give him a massage. And he would, proceed to, we should put a content warning on this actually.
Yeah.
Hey, content warning. This part's going to get gross. He would molest them. He would, and it was varying degrees. It would be, he would grab their private parts, or he would just like grab them, or sometimes he would masturbate with them like while he was grabbing onto them, or sometimes he would hold them down and rape them. So I mean, it was just a slew of just awful sexual assault, and he would perpetrate it. And then based sort of on the
by the way, I wasn't laughing at this. The dog just like ran down the stairs.
Yeah. No, there's nothing to laugh about here in this one. And so this outrageous scheme eventually spanned about 36 or more girls that he had abused, and that was just from 2001 to 2005. And so in 2005, charges were brought against him, finally. And initially, it was just one 14-year-old plaintiff, but a lot more started coming forward, like right after. And so there was a big investigation into him, and it ended up at Florida State Attorney Barry Krischer's office. Important name, Barry Krischer, piece of shit. But he was pretty much ready to let Epstein just walk on a plea deal and serve no jail time. And so at that point, and that part's actually alleged, but the Miami Herald reported that as well, so I'm pretty sure it's true. And so then at that point, a federal investigation was launched because the police who had investigated Epstein were very upset that he was getting the deal he was about to get. And so they petitioned for a federal investigation, and a federal investigation was started. Eventually, Alex Acosta, who was the U.S. attorney at the time in the Florida in the district of, I guess, like the Southeast, whatever that is, prepared a 53-page indictment against Epstein, detailing all of the victims that had come forward, the 36, and then he never filed it. Wow. And this is where the conspiracy theory comes in, because supposedly Alex Acosta was eventually... Dog again. We're not laughing at this, I promise.
This is the worst time to be laughing.
No. Alex Acosta eventually became Trump's Secretary of Labor. Mm-hmm. And during the lead up to the confirmation hearings, he was asked by cabinet members if there was anything about specifically this Jeffrey Epstein case, which we will come back to the sentencing. But Alex Acosta was eventually asked by Trump's transition team if there was going to be a problem from this. And allegedly, Alex Acosta then said that at the time that he cut Jeffrey Epstein this deal, he was told by members of the intelligence community that Epstein, quote unquote, belongs to intelligence, is above your pay grade, and to let it go. And so Alex Acosta did let it go. He didn't file his 53-page indictment, and they cut Epstein a deal for 18 months in prison. He would have to register as a sex offender, but the two charges that were brought against him were solicitation of a prostitute and solicitation of a underage prostitute, which is not a thing. There is no such thing as an underage prostitute. If you are not 18 years old, you cannot consent to be a prostitute. You are being sex trafficked.
Wait, really?
Yes. There is no such charge as
the girls who are like on the streets at like 16.
Yeah.
That's sex trafficking.
That's sex trafficking. If you and in the state of Florida, there is not, which is where he was primarily operating this scheme. In the state of Florida, it's not a defense that you didn't know the girl's age. If you have sex with a minor, and you're protected by like Romeo and Juliet laws if you're like really close in age, but if you're not, that is sex trafficking.
Damn, that's crazy. Romeo and Juliet, what happened? Romeo and Juliet laws.
So there's Romeo and Juliet laws in place where, like, say if there's like an 18-year-old dating a 16-year-old, that 18-year-old won't be prosecuted, right? Yeah. And those are different from state to state, as our ages of consent. But a lot of these girls were 14 and under, like 15 and under. Jesus. And so in certain of the cases, he was going to be charged with sex trafficking. But then there's also this weird stipulation in Florida where if you're, over the age of 15 and not sexually penetrated, it's not rape.
What? So it's like not molesting?
It's still sexual assault, but it's a much lesser charge. Which is ridiculous.
That's okay.
All right. But okay, so
that's what it is, I guess.
After Alex Acosta cut this deal with Jeffrey Epstein, he was supposed to serve 18 months. They ended up doing it. His jail cell ended up being at the West Palm Beach County Stockade, which is like a prison that was only being like half used at the time. So they shut down one of the wings of it, and he basically had not like the whole wing, but he had his like cell.
Got it.
And then he had access to a conference room or like a lawyer's room where he had like access to TV and whatever. But then about 3 months into his sentence, he created a charity. Yeah, he created a charity that he was the president of. And he got a work release permit, which, by the way, in Florida, sex offenders are not eligible for work release. But he got a work release permit to be allowed out of the jail for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, as long as he was accompanied by officers.
So he wasn't in jail.
He was not in jail. And on top of that, the officers who were assigned to be his detail, he ended up parlaying it in a way that he ended up being the one who was paying their salaries.
What the
Yeah. And so he was allowed out and about 6 days a week for up to 12 hours a day. He was allowed to go to his home where he had perpetrated the crimes, and he was allowed to go into his home while his officer detail stayed out front. So he was allowed essentially to continue sex trafficking with officers outside of the front of his house.
That's ridiculous.
While he was in prison.
Oh
prison.
That just hurts my brain. People are in prison for less, and it's like really pisses me off.
Dude, literally.
People are in jail for weed.
Some of the girls who he raped ended up going on to get drug sentences that were like 3 years and 4 years and like served more time than he did for like drug related charges than he did for sex trafficking.
So stupid. I can't. That's like mind blowing.
And so after he got out, a lot of powerful people distanced themselves from him, including his like mentor and billionaire friend Les Wexner, which is where he got most of his money to start with. Les Wexner is the founder of Victoria's Secret and still owns it. Still owns Victoria's Secret and Pink and Bath and Body Works. And Les Wexner has a lot of questions to answer, which he hasn't done yet. And so I would love for the FBI.
Owns Victoria's Secret.
I know, right? I would love for the FBI to pull in Les Wexner and give him a good to do, but he's a multi-billionaire, so it's not that likely to happen.
That's what sucks about these people, that they have so much money they can get away with literally
it's awful. And
anything.
He, to be fair, distanced himself like at the time of the first incident, but like still, he was the one who enabled Jeffrey Epstein to get to the point he got to anyway.
Right.
I have a list of people who I'm going to call out here at the end too. This thing goes deep.
Just dropping
anyway,
names.
so I want to get this right. Okay, so he was released, and he started sort of trying to rehabilitate his image. He would say to his like powerful and rich friends that they would call him like a child, like a predator and like a pedophile and whatever. And then he would be like, I'm a sex offender. There's a difference. I committed one offense and it wasn't that bad.
Oh my God.
This kind of like image rehabilitation.
It hurts.
And notably, Prince Andrew did not cut ties with him immediately.
Okay.
And Prince Andrew has come under a lot of fire for this recently. He did an interview, Prince Andrew did, over the weekend, and it was a complete disaster. And this I love this interviewer, Emily Maitlis. I'd never heard of her before, but she went hard in the paint on him. She was like, she would ask him a question, and he would deflect, and then she would just ask him the same question.
It's kind of genius.
Anyway, so he disaster of an interview. That was this year. But basically in 2010, he attended a dinner with Epstein in which he was the guest of honor at Epstein's like house, and he wasn't like the only big name there. George Stephanopoulos, who was an anchor, I think still is an anchor for ABC. We'll get to ABC. Katie Couric, who at the time was a working journalist. I had
had a book signed by her, which is really weird.
Anyway, she was at this dinner. There were a couple other big names, and I'm blanking on them. I'll put them in put them on screen right here. I'll put their names on screen. And so that dinner took place, and then Andrew proceeded to stay at Epstein's house for the next 3 or 4 days while he was supposedly there to break off the friendship with Epstein.
Got it.
Yeah. Moving on. So in 2015, ABC, a reporter at ABC, says that she had this whole story in 2015 that she was ready to run with it, and the network wouldn't let her. And so ABC buried the story in 2015, is what I'm getting at. And I don't know who specifically at ABC buried the story, but George Stephanopoulos, who was, remember, Epstein's dinner guest 5 years previous, was working there as a lead anchor. I think is still working there as a lead anchor, which is insane. So people like to point fingers at him as a potential reason the story was not run with. But ABC says that it didn't meet their journalistic standards, but that they never stopped investigating it, and that now they're going to come out with a mini series and a 6-part podcast.
I'm so dead.
Right.
Oh my God.
Okay. So eventually,
especially now that he's dead, it's just a way to make money.
Right. And so eventually we got to a real reporter who would actually cover this. Julie Brown from the Miami Herald picked this up in 2017 after Alex Acosta was named the Secretary of Labor. And it's so interesting when you, because I went back and watched his, not the whole confirmation hearing, but there's a point at which Senator Tim Kaine questions him specifically about the Epstein shit. And you should go watch it. It's ridiculous because he asked him Tim Kaine literally asked this man 2 questions and then moved on.
Dude.
Anyway, Alex Acosta is no longer Secretary of Labor, but that happened in the wake of Epstein getting arrested. So Julie Brown caught onto the story in 2017 and just kept digging and went to find the girls, went to find the whole scoop. She's such a good old school reporter, pound the pavement, go do actual journalism type journalist.
Did they find the girls in his house? Is that how she found them? Or just by word of mouth?
By word of mouth. And no, specifically by word of mouth. She had to go and find, because they were all minors at the time, so their names were redacted from all of the court documents. And so she had to sort of go through other channels. But once she started finding actual victims, they would point her to the other victims because it was a pyramid scheme, right? So one girl would bring in 3 other girls. So if she found one girl, she'd be able to be okay, well, these are the 3 girls I brought in, go talk to them. And so that's how she sort of unraveled the whole thing. And then in November of last year, 2018, she published her big expose piece. It's a 4-part, really long, really detailed piece on how Jeffrey Epstein got this sweetheart deal in 2008 from Alex Acosta and from Barry Krischer, who are both incredibly culpable in this. Alex Acosta and Barry Krischer. In case you didn't get that. Both deserve criminal indictments for this. So does Sheriff Rick Bradshaw, who was overseeing his detention, who was the one who ended up letting him out on work release. Sheriff Rick Bradshaw is still the sheriff in Palm Beach. He should also face a criminal investigation. And so that brings us pretty much to where we are now.
God, I'm yawning so much because it's just so it's so dark in here, and it just is so cave-esque right now, and especially with our new neon sign. I don't know what you noticed, but it's pretty dope. we didn't even announce it.
It's amazing.
But but I don't know. I
love it a lot.
I'm just so ready
I know. I'm sorry. And this is dragging. Well, we're almost to the end of it here, but
no, it's just the cheese and the candles are just making me super comfy.
And okay, so the FBI opened a new investigation into Epstein, and eventually arrested him on sex trafficking charges in July of this year. And so then that's when dominoes really started to fall. But
Oh, never mind.
and so
the pizza place. I was like, wait, why I missed
What do
something?
they have to do with this?
I'm like,
No,
wait, pizza shop trafficking? What's going on?
It's really weird how often. Never mind.
We're not getting into it.
No. But basically, the information of this whole story, this whole sweetheart deal, how he's a pedophile, how Ghislaine Maxwell is implicated, we haven't even gotten to Ghislaine Maxwell. Sorry. Ghislaine Maxwell is his basically like second in command.
Okay.
And we'll get to her in a minute. But Prince Andrew admitted to being basically the last person to see Ghislaine in his interview over the weekend, which is because, basically no one's seen Ghislaine in like a while, in like a hot minute, like since before Epstein disappeared. In fact, Prince Andrew saying that he saw her earlier this spring, I think dates him as the last person to see her, or at least the last person to admit he saw her. Ghislaine Maxwell is accused by Virginia Roberts, who is now like sort of like, you can consider her the lead accuser here of the Epstein case. And Virginia Roberts is the one who was recruited from Donald Trump, from Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's golf course. She was working there in 2000. She was recruited by Jeffrey Epstein. Well, she was actually recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell, who is formerly Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend and was his accomplice. And I don't say that lightly. She was definitely heavily involved in his sex trafficking ring, not only as a recruiter and a groomer and what they call like a madame, which is like, but like she would also participate in the sexual assault of these women. She would be in the room and she would also assault them, like in like they would have threesomes or orgies or whatever, and she would be the one like telling the girls what to do and like coercing them to do what Jeffrey wanted. And so she is very, very heavily involved in this. She very much needs criminal charges brought against her. But the problem with Ghislaine Maxwell is she has so much money and so many powerful friends all over the world. No one can find her.
She's hiding in the pyramids.
It's more likely she's just in France.
She's spelunking somewhere.
So France has this weird thing where they won't extradite people for sex crimes. I don't know.
What?
They've been harboring Roman Polanski for years. Harvey Weinstein was talking about like going there if he gets on him too hot, which I can't believe he is still walking around in a free man. It's unbelievable.
And like say shit like that, like what?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she could easily just go live in France for the rest of her life. But yeah, no one's seen her since before Epstein got arrested, actually. Which raises questions of whether she's still alive or not, to be fair, but
I think she definitely is.
I think so too. I think she's in hiding and she knows that she can't really surface or she's going to get picked up.
She probably bought like a wig and lives in like an apartment above like a bread shop in fucking Paris. That's what I would do.
Yeah, she's public enemy number one in terms of co-conspirators, but there are a lot of others. Let's get to my list. Sorry, let's not get to my list yet because we didn't get to the second part of this conspiracy, which is him dying in prison.
Yeah, I was going to say, we are basically covering this because we both agree that he was murdered. Yes.
So the first part, like I said, of the conspiracy theory is someone in the intelligence community basically called down for him to not get in trouble in the 2005 charges, which ended up being sentenced in 2008. So someone either in the deep state, in the intelligence community, or in maybe like the White House called down. This is the first conspiracy, right? Mm-hmm. Is that someone called down to get Jeffrey a lesser sentence, and for whatever reason they did that. We can get into it in a minute. So Jeffrey was arrested in July of this year. He was being held at I don't remember what the actual name of it is, but the MCC, Metropolitan Correctional Center. I don't know. It's in New York. Mm-hmm. It's a pretrial facility. So it's all inmates who are indicted but not guilty yet, right? So like innocent until proven guilty type inmates. But it's really, really poor conditions considering that. Do you want to take a break?
No, dude, it's fine.
Okay. But basically he was put on suicide watch because he had a suicide attempt in July, and then very shortly after was taken off suicide watch. 2 days before his death, he rewrote his will to put all his money in the Virgin Islands to make it harder for his accusers to get to it. And then 2 days later, he died from asphyxiation. And the autopsy was initially marked as there's on an autopsy report, there's cause of death, but there's also like manner of death. Mm-hmm. And so the difference is like cause of death is asphyxiation or whatever, but manner of death is like homicide, suicide, accidental,
like something aside from you doing it to yourself, essentially.
Right. So and then there's also the box of like undetermined pending further study, which was what was originally marked on the autopsy, and then it was changed to suicide.
But the story of what they think happened is actually...
Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
Like, they essentially think that he took his bed sheet and then jumped off the top bunk.
And then basically like caught his neck on it, and then that's what killed him somehow.
We all know that those bunk beds, I mean, like, you know what I mean. But like, those bunk beds are not that tall.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way a grown-ass man would be able to hang himself unless he literally catapulted himself and then like lifted his knees up. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And
like, it's not
completely outside the realm of possibility. But the other two big ass problems with the autopsy is they won't release the fingernail scrapings. They took fingernail scrapings like of his fingernails, because if you're being strangled, what do? You claw them, right? And then you have their DNA under your fingernails. They won't release that. They won't release the fingernail scrapings. And the other thing they won't release is any DNA that was on the actual ligature that he used, that like he was found with ligature. Like ligature is like what you would use to hang yourself, right, on his neck. But they won't release the DNA findings of what was on. Because
if someone was holding it, obviously, dude, he got murdered. He didn't he didn't hang himself. Let's be real. And also,
it doesn't stop there.
No, but also someone like that, let's be totally transparent with this. Somebody like that is so cocky. He probably thought he was going to get out of jail.
Yeah. No, like, he did. He thought he was going to make bail.
Yeah.
Until like the end. He was talking like with lawyers every day, being like, and I like lawyer, like confidentiality, but like what could you be talking with your lawyers about every day?
Like if people were smart, they would have waited for him to fully be in jail and then be like, he thought he was gonna get out, it f***ed with him mentally, and then he committed suicide. But if you're in a facility
because they couldn't risk him going to trial.
Right, I that's what but like I'm saying, if they were smart about it, I mean, granted, that's why they did it, because they didn't want him to go to trial. But if they're smart about it, and if it actually was a suicide, they would have at least waited for him to be trialed and found guilty, and then be like, oh, his mental health, blah, 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 and then like he commits suicide.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like doing it while he's in a facility where he might make bail, this dude is way too up his own ass to just commit suicide like that.
No way. And like the other thing is, from all accounts, he's a complete narcissist.
Yeah.
Narcissists don't kill themselves.
No. He's also definitely part socio too.
Oh, yeah.
So he doesn't care.
Not at all.
Like Ted Bundy didn't kill himself.
No. And so there's literally more suspicious circumstances than just that, even though that would like be enough to trigger like red flags to begin with, just from the autopsy, just from them not releasing those specific findings. What's on the ligature, what's underneath.
And also how everybody was like, what? Like he hung himself. Yeah. Like what the
They had a second forensic pathologist come in and do like, he observed the original autopsy, and eventually found out that the hyoid bone was broken in Jeffrey Epstein's neck, which is, I'm told, and I've read, more consistent with strangulation than with hanging.
Right.
It's not impossible for it to occur during hanging, but it happens like, you could consider it happens like pretty much every time with strangulation, and like
because it's crushed and instead of like loss of air.
Yeah. And so other forensic pathologists have said that it's possible to be done with hanging. And so you can't rule out hanging based on the hyoid bone, but it is more consistent with strangulation. So then it keeps going, right? The two cameras that were watching the hallway to his cell and his cell malfunctioned that night, recorded almost nothing, including the moment or like the whole time he allegedly committed suicide. The guards who were supposed to be checking on him that night didn't check on anyone that night. They didn't perform any checks between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. That's a whole 8-hour shift. And
us as guards.
They were caught on camera sleeping because the other cameras
also
in the jail
us as guards
still worked. And they have been criminally indicted. Actually, it happened earlier this week. Anyway, all those combined to paint a picture of, like, if one of them had happened, right? If the camera stopped working, if the guards fell asleep, if the guards were just like not doing their checks, if his hyoid bone has broken, but like all the other stuff hadn't, if they released the fingernail scrapings and there was no one's DNA under his fingernails, if they released the DNA on the ligature and it was only his, but until we get those things, I just like the suspicious circumstances for me are like way too much. The other thing is, the only other theory that's really been suggested is that like there's a conspiracy to have let him commit suicide, right? Because
like they were just not watching him.
Yeah, like on purpose, so that he could.
I thought for a while that he was actually in jail like the first time. So I was like, oh, okay, somebody like that who is a narcissist would probably kill themselves if they were in jail, because they're like, well, fuck, like I'm not getting out. But since he was just in a holding facility, he definitely thought he was going to make bail. He was planning that shit. He was moving his money. Yeah. Why would somebody like that just be like, I'm giving up?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, he's too egotistical for that. He thought he was going to get out, put his money somewhere else, go get it, and then keep doing the things.
And move to France.
Yeah, and keep trafficking.
Yeah.
He had no plan to stop.
I would argue he probably, I know we can only firmly date it back to 2001, but I would argue he'd probably been trafficking all through the 90s. And that he never stopped after I'm pretty sure we actually do know that he didn't stop after he came out of jail in 2010, because there are plaintiffs from the time period like following that as well. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. This case makes me really upset. I do still want to call out his co-conspirators before we go, because there's a lot of them. So the co-conspirators who are officially named in the non-prosecution agreement from 2008, which was sealed until recently, has been unsealed. And so there are co-conspirators named in that non-prosecution agreement, where he was basically like, you can't prosecute me or any of these people for sex trafficking because I'm copying to this now. But that's out the window now. And so all of these people should have criminal charges brought against them. Ghislaine Maxwell, who we already talked about, but the rest of them we didn't talk about. So Leslie Groff, who was a groomer and a handler of the girls who we would bring in. Sarah Kellen Vickers. Sarah Kellen was her name now. She married a former NASCAR driver, Brian Vickers, and she was a key part in the recruitment and grooming of the girls he was bringing in. I forgot what Adriana Ross, what role she played, but she was named in the indictment. So she, at the very least, has questions to answer. Nadia Marcinkova is, I actually want to talk about her last of this list at least. But Jean-Luc Brunel, who was instrumental in, again, like grooming the girls, making sure that everything stayed secret as well, and he's also named as a rapist. Nadia Marcinkova is sort of where this gets tricky, and there's another girl I'm going to bring up here at the end. But Nadia Marcinkova was a victim, right? She was brought in, she was purchased, I think, from another country, and brought in as like a sex slave. But then I don't know if she was into it from the start or like was Stockholmed into it, but she started to like it.
Oh, and so she started to
she would start
roles.
To participate, to the point where she was named in the non-prosecution agreement because she was with him raping these girls.
I mean, I feel like at that, like, not saying it's right, but I feel like at that point, it's like probably the safest thing for you to do to save your own life is like kind of like that. If you can't beat them, join them type mindset. It's like it's either be tortured or torture. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So with her, I'm totally willing to have her get a criminal indictment as well.
Yeah.
That she can't just like.
Oh no, she can't get away with.
But the one who I'm less inclined is one who I feel like was just trying to save her own skin, and that's Haley Robson, who was really, really involved in the recruitment of other girls. But I think Haley Robson was basically there was this implicit agreement where like he brought you in to like give him massages, but then if you like weren't pretty enough maybe or like you just like really didn't want to
pretty enough,
dead ass, or like if you weren't his type.
Okay.
But yeah, so this girl Haley Robson recruited a lot for him, but I think in her case, and I'm not even saying that she shouldn't have criminal charges brought against her, and I would love audience input on this because I don't really know how to feel about this girl because she was underage at the time that it was happening, but she recruited a lot of other girls for him.
It sounds like she was just saving her.
Yeah, right? Like doing whatever
especially
she
that
can.
Young. It's like that's what I'm saying is like if I wasn't like knock on wood, but it's just like if you're in that position, like you want to be in higher power than what's happening to you.
And so like juxtaposing those two, on the one hand we have Nadia Marcinkova, who started participating in rapes maybe to save her own skin, but then we have Haley Robson, who was recruiting almost definitely to save her own skin. And so I think that we have to decide, because there is going to come a point where we're going to have to, with this case, choose which of these girls to prosecute and which not to. So according to Virginia Roberts, who's now, as we talked about, the lead, I consider her the lead witness. And I think a lot of other people do too, because she was there for so long. She was there from like 2000 all the way through. I forget when she escaped, but she like escaped. She was like sent to Thailand to like finish her massage training and was told to recruit a girl while she was there and bring her back. She met a guy there and ended up moving to Australia to get away from Jeffrey Epstein, and she's married to him still, I believe. And so she named 3 really prominent people as rapists. Prince Andrew, who we already covered, but also former governor of Mexico, Bill Richardson, and former Senator George Mitchell. So those are the 3 most prominent members, but she's the 3 most prominent men she's named, but there are others, and those 3 especially. And I mean, I know we don't have jurisdiction over Prince Andrew, but Bill Richardson and George Mitchell should be prosecuted as rapists.
Right.
Alex Acosta and Barry Krischer, who I already said. Sheriff Rick Bradshaw. Sheriff Rick Bradshaw is there's a sitting Senator Ben Sasse, I believe he's from Nebraska. He's calling for a criminal investigation into Rick Bradshaw's sheriff's department, and Rick Bradshaw is not happy about it.
I can imagine.
But that whole department needs to be investigated, and Rick Bradshaw is like, yeah, we're going to launch an investigation into my sheriff's department. But like whatever. So he should have a criminal indictment brought against him. Supposedly the pilots have testified, have talked to the FBI, but I just want to say their names anyway because they enabled this Jeffrey Epstein's behavior for over a decade. Larry Visosky and David Rogers. And thanks to them, at least we have flight logs of everyone who went on his plane. Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, Donald Trump, like all of these people like flew on his pedophile plane, which like when they actually seize the plane, it's disgusting. There's like a bed in the back. There's like, it's gross. It's exactly what you think it would be.
Oh my God. Ew.
Okay. I'm still calling names because there's a lot. Les Wexner, who I already called out, but he should face a criminal probe. Donald Trump has a lot of questions to answer, which he hasn't. Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker, Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz is a really high-powered attorney who was actually on Epstein's legal team the first time. And Alan Dershowitz has the audacity to be doing podcasts about Jeffrey Epstein when he's named as a co-conspirator. This I was doing research on this case and on Pops Alan Dershowitz to talk about the plea deal all those years ago and to tell us how, oh my God, yeah, I was going to get him to plead to a felony, but then I was taken off. You, Alan Dershowitz. You have so many questions to answer. You have accusers too.
Oh boy.
Sorry.
Go off. I'm here for it.
Graydon Carter is the last big name I wanna name. Yeah, sorry. This case really pissed me off. It's ongoing.
He's been researching it for 2 weeks.
It's ongoing.
I know, and he keeps going. So
there's like a new break in this case every day. I swear.
Yeah, it's hard. But yeah, so with everything that we've heard so far and everything, like all the little details that everyone else clearly isn't thinking about, but it's just like, and I don't know.
I'm sweating.
I know. And I'm over here like still comfy as fuck with like the lighting and cheese. But like, I just feel like as somebody who has, I don't know. I don't want to sound like whatever, but like as somebody who has studied like forensics and shit, I'm just like, bruh, if we can figure it out, we're not even there. What the fuck are you guys doing? What are you doing? It's really not that hard. There was less traces for certain serial killers, and you guys can't figure out that one dude did not hang himself?
Honestly, I'm just like, between researching this episode and researching the last episode, I am so disenchanted with the American justice system. I'm just like... Like, and also, all the worst criminals failed to get, like, they just failed to put away all the worst criminals and then give people like 10-year drug offense charges.
Awful. And then like on top, okay, this is the last point I want to make in this podcast because it is long as but this is very important because it ties into the whole Epstein thing, but also the grooming and the trafficking. So left field right now, but like random, but everyone please be careful in Ubers. Please be careful by yourselves, especially if you have a woman driver. It is a very serious thing that's happening. I know plenty of people, not just Uber, it's Lyft, it's all, like, you are getting in a car with a stranger, you are getting in a car with someone you are meeting offline and you do not know anything about them. Some people don't even actually work for the companies, or they do and then either use a fake license or you're getting picked up by somebody who is doing it primarily just to kidnap you. There has been a story that just came out about a girl who got kidnapped by her Lyft driver. 2 other people that I know, one of them was about to be dropped off in a completely different location with her friend, with an Uber driver that was a woman, and they ended up at a different location, and then she told her to drop her off beforehand because the lady turned off the
hell no.
Yeah, the lady turned off the map, and my friend didn't. Her and her friend were talking, and she realized that the lady had turned off the whatever, the like map screen.
Yeah.
And then she got on the phone and started speaking Spanish, and my friend could understand her, and she was like, hey, like, I got these 2 girls.
No.
I'm coming downtown, like, we'll meet you here, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, hey, drop us off right here. And the lady literally just left them on like the side of the road. And then one of my clients, and this is the most up story, one of my clients, her and her friend were in a car. I don't know if it was her and her friend or 2 of her friends, but they felt someone banging on the back of their seat. And so they started panicking and they were like, let us off right now. The guy pulled over, let them off on the side of the highway. There was somebody in the trunk.
Yeah.
And so then they're walking off the highway and the guy makes like a U-turn, comes back, drives past them, and now the girl is in the front seat, and she's like, oh, this is my, like, he was like, oh, this is my girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, yeah, she like played it off.
Sorry, the girl in the trunk?
Yeah. He took her out and put her in the front seat to prove to them that like she wasn't being kidnapped, when really you know that he threatened the shit out of her.
Yeah.
And so they called the cops and like took the license plate and everything.
Thank God. Did he get caught? Do you know?
I don't even know if that was his car. So I'm just saying, like, because of all the sex trafficking stuff, if you are a woman, if you are a man, at this point, age doesn't matter, gender doesn't matter, nothing matters. It's safety. And I don't take Ubers by myself anymore. I don't take Ubers.
Safety in numbers for sure.
100%.
One tip I heard that's excellent is check the door to see if the child lock is on before you get into the backseat of an Uber, or just sit in the. I don't know. I don't love that. I don't love sitting in the front seat of Ubers, especially by yourself.
Yeah.
It's harder for them to get to you if they have to turn around.
Yeah, and
right?
also, I mean, I don't know if this is like 100% like helpful, but I always pay for like Uber Black or like the more pricey stuff, like whatever, it's $100 Uber, but guess what, at least $100 versus like getting kidnapped. It's, you know, you pay for safety. And so my parents always taught me, you know, like it doesn't matter like who is driving. I mean,
in some cases, like we totally get that's not an option, but the child lock thing is always an option. If you end up like child locked into a car, they probably have the window locked too. You break the window. I don't know.
Break the window. Honestly.
Break the window.
Honestly, call 911 and just keep them on the phone. You don't have to talk. Speakerphone
911.
Just be careful. It's just something that like I've just been hearing a lot about it lately. It's been coming out in the news. I've heard so many stories lately, and you know, and like I've thought back to a time when I first moved to LA, and there was a lady that I met in a club, and she was in the bathroom, and she was like overly friendly. It was like, let me take a photo with you, blah, 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 blah. And then she was like, let's exchange numbers. And then I was dumb, but I exchanged numbers with her, and then she was hitting me up every single day to meet her at like different places. I never went, and then she spoke broken English at the time when I met her, and then all of a sudden when I wasn't meeting up with her text would switch and become angry, but she was like speaking perfect English. So I'm guessing that whoever she was with, there was somebody else who was texting me, right? And so like whoever she was with that was not knew she wasn't able to get a hold of me. He was pissed, so therefore like he was taking it out on her. I don't know, just you never like, it's weird, like you gotta be careful. And especially with women, and it's like all women are usually the ones.
It's not even just like exactly, it has nothing to do with like gender or age or race or any of it. Anyone could be a potential sex trafficker, which is the sad state of the world we live in, but just like we need to just be vigilant and aware. Keep your eyes open.
And that's not a conspiracy theory, like, at all. It's real, it's happening. And I mean, this is a total like U-turn from like obviously like a not so serious like podcast intro to a very serious ending. But I mean, if it could save a life, you know, just be super careful out there. Be careful, always in numbers. Make sure your phone is always charged. Make sure you're not getting into an Uber drunk by yourself. Always be alert when you're getting into a car with someone you do not know. And women are usually more
if you're
likely
in
to target
Uber
you
Lyft,
than a man.
Keep the app open and monitor your route.
Like
if you can, like, or just like watch and make sure on their phone, which is usually like on the dashboard, right? Make sure you know where you're going. Make sure they're not taking you on some weird route that you didn't ask for. God, I just there was I'll probably post it on our Instagram story when this comes out, but that thing, I posted it on my Instagram story if any of you follow me, but it was about like 9 or 10 tips on
that's been going around. They're super helpful.
They're actually good. They're specifically geared towards like parking garages and like daytime abductions, but they're just like really good like general rules.
Like don't park next to a van. The moment you get into your car, lock your door. Don't sit in the parking lot. Leave immediately.
If there is an attacker, don't follow their instructions. Try to crash your car. Literally try to crash your car.
You can get a new car. You can't get a new life. Throw your purse if they're coming for your money.
Yes. Throw your purse away from you. Throw your purse or wallet away from you so that the attacker will go for your purse or wallet and you can run.
And if there's something on your windshield, drive away with it. Do not ever back out of your car to get something off your windshield. If it's a piece of paper, sweater, whatever it is, like I always drive away with it. Even if it's just like a little piece of paper.
The van thing, it's like the van will park on your driver's side so they can like pull you into your car as you're getting into.
So go in through your passenger side.
If there's a big windowless van, or like any sort of vehicle you can't see in parked too close to you, get in on your passenger side.
I mean, and like one time
check your back seat before you get in the car.
Yes, check your back seat. I mean, that's a huge one. When you get in your car, please just lock your doors immediately. That's there. I could not stress that enough. How many of us sit in our cars right after we get in them and
on
just
your phone,
like
scroll social media?
No one cares. Go home.
Go.
There was one time, and this is something that could also help somebody. I was followed by a man leaving the mall at 9:00 at night, leaving work. He followed me onto the highway, so I got in the fast lane, carpooling.
Yeah.
And I basically drove so fast to like get away from him, but also I tried to get stopped by a cop.
If you got pulled over, exactly.
I wanted to get stopped by a cop. So no one pulled me over, but what I did is I got behind a cop. The first cop I saw, I got behind him because like one, he was either going to pull me over because he saw that I was alone in the fast lane, which is great because then I can just tell him. Two, the guy would see me behind a cop, so he would keep driving, and I follow that cop all the way to my exit.
If you can find a cop. The other thing you can just do is if you think someone is following you and you want to make sure and establish, just like drive really erratically.
Yes.
Make a bunch of turns, turn like in a square, like 4 right-hand turns in a row.
And never go home.
Get off a highway, go straight back on the on-ramp. Like go across, like no one ever does that.
But don't lead them to your house.
Exact. No.
Don't
lead them to your business. Don't lead them to your friend's house.
Lead them to a police station.
Dead ass.
To a police station or a gas station, a place that's lit up.
Yeah.
You can go inside, use the phone, tell people what's going on. Just stay away from them. So that is just what I wanted to end on that note.
Not to get hysterical on you guys, but this is a serious problem, and we are very conscious of it and concerned about it. Not just for ourselves, but for our friends and family as well. And that's you. So stay safe.
Yeah, I just feel like it's important to talk about that, especially after, like, agree. I mean, this guy was, leading a sex ring for like years, and it's shit's still going on.
I forgot to even say
many places than one.
Pretty much confirmed to be the largest sex trafficking scheme in American history. Julie Brown, the Miami Herald reporter, identified up to 80 women. Jesus Christ. I mean, girls at the time, but women now who were trafficked by him. And it wasn't just in Florida. He was doing this in New York, New Mexico, and in the Virgin Islands as well.
Yeah. So be careful out there. But also, it's the biggest point is it's not just men. Usually it's mostly women working. Yeah. And getting in recruiting.
Grooming, recruiting. Yep.
It's easier.
You're more likely to trust
safer.
them. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I don't fucking trust nobody. So if a woman's being overly nice to me, I'm like, I don't know you like that.
I don't need any of that in my life.
I'm the wrong person to approach.
Right. Okay. We're going to end here unless you have anything else.
No, I just wanted to make that like little disclaimer. I thought that was...
No, greatly appreciate that because it's, everyone should be just like hyper vigilant. It sucks, but that is the world we live in. Stay safe.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So,
okay,
that
guys.
was conspiracy theories.
Yeah, let us know of our, 5 conspiracy theories. If you believe in the moon landing, if you believe in ancient aliens, if you believe in Atlantis, if you believe that intelligence or someone high up in the U.S. government let Jeffrey Epstein go the first time, and if you believe someone had him killed. So weigh in on any of those you want to in the comments. We'll end up taking some sort of shots somehow next episode. We'll figure that out. Yeah. It was your idea.
I know.
And stay safe, and that's all we have for you. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is #Wild. I'm Matt.
I'm Susanna.
And we wish you a really good... whatever time of day you're listening to this. Really good
holiday.
week.
I don't know when this is going to come out.
Thanks so much for tuning in, though, y'all. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.